Hey, HorseCenter fans, Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. This week, Matt, we're talking Stars and Stripes Festival at Belmont Park, a bunch of exciting races, both on turf and dirt on Saturday.
There sure is. We've got the Belmont Derby and the Belmont Oaks on the grass, the Suburban with the return of Catholic Boy, the Dwyer with the return of Code of Honor. What a great day of racing.
Great day of racing at Belmont Park. Matt and I also have some long shot picks. You don't want to miss who they are. Catholic Boy, Code of Honor. Watch it all right here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the excellent pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good, Brian. We got a lot of great racing coming up with the 4th of July and onwards. So let's get to the show.
Let's get to the show. It's Stars and Stripes Festival time at Belmont, beautiful Belmont Park there in New York, Matt. And I don't know about you, but I love these big race cards that New York has put together the last few years. Belmont Day is wonderful. Travers Day is great. And tell you what, this Stars and Stripes Festival, led by the 3-year-olds on the turf, ain't bad either, my friend. Oh, before we talk about the 3-year-old turf horses, Matt, I want to talk some Catholic Boy with you. He's back, and he's in the Suburban Race 10 on Belmont Park's big card Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Brian, and I was a little surprised to see that the Suburban drew a field of 11 for the 10 furlong race as Catholic Boy makes the switch from turf to dirt after a very nice victory in his 2019 debut in the Dixie at Pimlico on the grass.
Yeah, Matt, that was, of course, Preakness Day. So he's had nearing 2 months since then, but it was a strong return, as you say, on the turf at Pimlico. I'll tell you what, he had really good work last week. So Catholic Boy looks to be coming up to the race really well, Matt. He'll obviously be a pretty clear favorite in here. And if you look at his past performances, of course, we know him as the preeminent turf and dirt star in America right now. But if you look at his past performances, Matt, he switched from turf to dirt as a 2-year-old and was a handsome winner of the Remsen Stakes on Aqueduct. And last year, of course, he famously won the Travers after switching back to the dirt from turf. So that angle for Catholic Boy has worked very well over the years. Is there any reason not to expect it to work out well for him again?
I don't have any reason. I certainly don't expect that to change in here. You know, Catholic Boy is so highly regarded in there's that new poll that Breeders' Cup has put together in terms of who's the likely winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic in November, and Catholic Boy is right up there in the top few in there. So, like you said, I expect Catholic Boy to be a very, very solid favorite in the Suburban, and he should be.
And he should be. He's quite at home at Belmont Park, although that's generally been on turf before. Trained by Jonathan Thomas, the 4-year-old son of More Than Ready, of course, is a graded stakes winner at 2 on turf and dirt, at 3 on turf and dirt. Now he's looking to do it again in only his second start as a 4-year-old. Catholic Boy, good tactical speed, 1.25 miles should be right up his alley, as he's shown before in the past, and he's a very game horse, as we learned about this time last year, Matt. Catholic Boy, strictly the one to beat in the Suburban. But there's a list of interesting horses in here, Matt. We could talk about Lone Sailor, who's always knocking on the door, seldom winning. He wins occasionally, but always knocking on the door, running good race after good race. Marconi is putting it all together, the son of Tappet for trainer Todd Pletcher. Pavel has been running in big races everywhere, and maybe this is actually a slight step down for Pavel. He could pop up. Rachel Alexandra's little brother, Wooderson, is in here, and he's starting to streak a little bit, as is a few others in here. And the one that I'm really looking at, Matt, is a 4-year-old gelding coming from Maryland. His name is Cordmaker. And of all the names in here that people are familiar with, I think Catholic Boy has to be Cordmaker if he wants to win the Suburban.
Okay, Brian, that no doubt will be a healthy long shot in the Suburban, and I think for sure that the race is Catholic Boys to win. I think 10 furlongs is maybe an ideal distance for him in there. You mentioned Marconi, who has put together 3 wins in a row, and he's kind of become a long distance specialist. So in a sense, the 10 furlongs is a little bit of a cutback for Marconi, and Lone Sailor was 3rd in the Santa Anita Gold Cup in there, and he's been running in a steady diet of grade 1 and grade 2 races. Pavel, who you never quite know, last ran in the Met Mile, and that was just not a good spot for Pavel in there. Too much speed, too short a distance, but who knows? It may serve as a race that really sets him up well for the Suburban.
Yeah, and Pavel has popped up with big races before, so he is a dangerous horse to pop up in here. I'm not big on Lone Sailor coming across country after the trip to California in here. Marconi, I generally don't like 1.5-mile horses cutting back to 1.25 miles, although he has the half-brother to Mucho Macho Man is clearly better than ever. And that last race was nice because he beat a good field in the 1.5 mile Brooklyn. In fact, a couple of horses that he defeated that day, there were several there that got close, but Marconi wasn't letting them by in the Brooklyn. Rocketry, a nice distance horse, and Realm are also in here and not without a shot. So Marconi is one of the ones, and he's got a little speed at least, although it could be 1.5 mile speed. We'll see what that translates to 1.25 miles. But I want to talk about Cordmaker a little bit more, Matt. I'm not sure how long he'll be because his form is so good for trainer Rodney Jenkins. He's one of these old school horses, Matt, who gets in a nice, sharp 7 furlong race. He's done it several times now before going to 10. Last time he did it, he won at 7, went in the Pimlico Special. And I tell you what, with a better trip, he very well might have beat tenfold that day. He was really running after going very wide in that Pimlico Special. They cut back for another sharp 7 furlong win to get ready for this. And I think Rodney Jenkins is bringing in a real live horse to the Suburban. But Catholic Boy, Catholic Boy is a horse who we both think, Matt, could be horse of the year material. Whatever surface he's on, he's a tough horse, and he sure is the horse to beat in this Suburban.
That's for sure. Catholic Boy could be a special horse.
Special horse. Hey, he's special just for winning all those different stakes on turf and dirt. That's one thing. Speaking of turf, Matt, let's jump on the Belmont grass. We got the $1 million Belmont Derby. I believe this is the 6th edition. Where are the years going, Matt? I believe it's the 6th edition of the Belmont Derby already. We got an overflow field. 14 are going to go, Matt, and I think the conversation needs to start out of the barn of trainer Chad Brown. Certainly, America's top turf trainer is well represented in this year's Belmont Derby. Yeah,
that's for sure. As tough a field as the Belmont Derby and the 14 horses is to handicap, a couple things for sure that the Chad Brown duo of Demarchelier and Digital Age are going to be the favorites. They are both 3 for 3 in their careers. They are both coming off a graded stakes victory. For Demarchelier, it was in the Pennine Ridge, which is a grade 3. For Digital Age, it was in the American Turf, a grade 2 at Churchill Downs. They are both very, very talented 3-year-old turfers, and I guess one of the two is the likely winner. Chad also has Standard Deviation in there, who last time out was a winner of a listed stake at Monmouth Park. But then you got all other kinds of interesting horses in here, horses from the Derby Trail that are trying the turf for the first time. We got horses coming across the pond from Aidan O'Brien.
Absolutely. Aidan O'Brien's got a couple in here. He's got Cape of Good Hope, who has pretty good form over there in Europe. He's also got Blenheim Palace. Not maybe the strongest contingent coming from Aidan O'Brien, but either of them, especially probably Cape of Good Hope, is in with a shot if they take to the American style of turf race, and a mile and a quarter should be right up their alley. And I think a mile and a quarter is a big part of this discussion, Matt. Digital Age, I bet when he won the American turf last time at Churchill Downs, I think of the two, I think the other one, how do you say it, Matt?
Demarchelier.
Demarchelier. I think will be the favorite. The other 3-for-3, the one that won the Pennine Ridge, although he did not win that easily. Seismic Wave, another horse in here for trainer Belmont, was making a nice run there. So it's if you go too heavy on Demarchelier, I think that might be a mistake. But I think he will be the favorite. He might be the more likely of those Chad Brown undefeated favorites to like a mile and a quarter. You didn't mention the other Chad Brown because he's a new Chad Brown, and I think this horse is certainly one to watch. His name is Rock Emperor. Rock Emperor tired a little bit in a big race in France last time, but he's got some really good form over there. And if he, how many times did the Europeans come over for Chad Brown and fire big time in their first time over here? So if you get some odds on that Chad Brown, watch out for him. In fact, of the Europeans, I think he's the one I like best over Cape of Good Hope from the O'Brien barn. We haven't mentioned Moon Colony, who won the Penn Mile last time. And we haven't mentioned all the horses that ran in the Triple Crown races, Matt. The Japanese Master Fencer, the winner of the UAE Derby, Pluquet Parfait. Spin-off for Todd Pletcher, the son of Hardspun, coming out of the Belmont like Master Fencer. Any of those are eligible. It's not likely that they're all going to love the turf, but they all have reasons to think that they could take to turf and fire a big shot at a mile and a quarter on Saturday.
Yeah, they are certainly quality horses, but no doubt this field of 14 is a tough spot to make your first try on the grass. I also want to throw in there English B, horse for Graham Motion, who was a very nice winner of a stake at Pimlico in his debut for 2019. And that's a horse that might have some quality that's definitely going to be a big price.
Yeah, Matt. Well, you just hit my top pick. I was waiting I was waiting to give out my top pick long shot in here, and you jumped on him. I like English B a lot in here. Listen, Chad Brown has a good chance to win this race, whether it's the undefeated duo. Standard Deviation took to turf, can't throw him out, although he's fourth on the list of the Chad Browns. The Aidan O'Briens could run. Seismic Wave, it's hard to knock him. Master Fencer has some turf form in Japan, so a number of horses. But English B is a horse, I think, screaming out for a distance. English B has been running shorter distances on the grass. If you look at the form, Matt talked about that win last time in Maryland, and I don't think it stands out in any way, especially against a field like this, $1 million race. But my feeling is this is a horse who wants to run long. And English B's form, turf races are good enough for me to think that when the son of English Channel gets to do what he wants to do, which is run a distance, he's gonna throw in an unexpectedly good race. And despite coming off that win last time, I look at this field and I think English B is in the 20-1 range, Matt. So, throw in those Chad Browns, but English B, a bomb, will be my top pick in the Belmont Derby.
I feel the same way, Brian. He is my long shot horse to use in your exactas and trifectas and such. And hey, it's a field of 14, Brian. You're going to need a good trip to be the winner of this race.
Very true. Very true. Hopefully our long shot, looks like both Matt Shipman and I will be on the same long shot. English B, for trainer Graham Motion in the Belmont Derby, maybe to upset the Chad Brown apple cart. Let's go to the fairer set now, Matt. The Belmont Oaks has run a couple races earlier. It's actually race 7. The $750,000. It's also 10 furlongs. You don't get a lot of 3-year-old filly races running at 1.25 miles, but in this one you do. And I don't know if that's a good thing for a newspaper of record. Certainly the most recognizable name in this field, but she hasn't run poorly in 2019, but she's 0 for 2, also trained by Chad Brown.
Yeah, Brian, I think you certainly have to start the discussion for this race talking about Concrete Rose, who has been an impressive turf horse since her debut last year at Saratoga when she won at First Asking, and since then has won 3 other races on the turf, including beating newspaper of record. Her only blemish was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year, and she certainly didn't seem to like that extremely wet turf course at Churchill Downs that day. To me, she's the horse to beat. She has won her races with style and with an impressive turn of foot in there. Newspaper of record, to me, is the big question mark in the race. As a 2-year-old, she was the superstar. Looked like the sky was the limit for the Chad Brown runner, but this year she's come back and in her 2 starts has been an extremely headstrong filly who has been hard to control on the lead to the extent that she has faded down the stretch in both of her starts because she's been fighting with the jockey. Since then, Chad Brown has been purposely training newspaper record behind horses, getting her to come off the pace, and in doing that, hopefully relax a little bit. If newspaper record can relax and listen to her jockey, the Belmont Park turf course lately, when it's firm, has been kind to speed horses. And if she can ration out her speed, she could be back in here. But it's a big question mark as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it has to be a big question mark, Matt. I have a bunch of things to say off of everything you just said. Let's start with a little weather report, Matt. Do you have a good idea? You're local there, of course. You have a good idea what kind of turf condition we'll see on Saturday at Belmont?
I don't, Brian. You know, it's summertime, and we can sometimes get those thunderstorms, but it's been pretty hot here the last few days, and is supposed to continue to be hot. And even if you get a little rain, the turf course is pretty likely to be firm and very fast.
Yeah, that's important, as Matt talked about a little bit there, because newspaper of record, when she was so unbeatable as a 2-year-old, was doing it on wet turf every time. And Concrete Rose, her only poor race, of course, was when it was wet for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies behind newspaper of record that day at Churchill Downs. Matt, I don't know if you remember this. I'm gonna bring it up. I mentioned Concrete Rose to you after that maiden race at Saratoga because she had trouble in that race, and she is a really nice filly that I've liked all along since seeing that race at Saratoga. Of course, she won the Keeneland here in her next start, and she was absolutely terrific. Of course, during Derby weekend, Churchill Downs, the last race, really just powered by. You mentioned newspaper of record gave it up in the stretch, but she was passed by 2 pretty good horses in each race. She was second both times. Concrete Rose just blew by and was won that Churchill race for fun. I do wonder if Concrete Rose is the 1.25 mile horse. That's something to think about. On the other hand, I think the odds might still be right on Concrete Rose, Matt. I think Chad Brown's going to get bet in here, whether it be newspaper of record or whether it be his other one, Cambier Parc, who beat newspaper of record last time. By the way, Cambier Parc is one of the finest looking individuals I've seen all year. She is a beautiful filly the Chad Brown filly that went by newspaper of record last time. She was in that race and no match for Concrete Rose at Churchill Downs, though. Then Chad Brown has an undefeated Cafe Americano, only 2 for 2, but she's been impressive. Beautiful Lover has won 3 in a row for Chad Brown, so he goes 4 deep in this one as well. And I think none of them can be thrown out. But I agree with you. Newspaper Record will get some money again, and I think she's worth betting against, considering what she's done this year in 2019.
I agree with that, Brian. And we should mention the Europeans that are coming over in here. Once again, Aidan O'Brien has 2 coming over, and I don't particularly like either one of them. They're both coming back from races at Royal Ascot that were, I guess at best we could say they were okay, and they're making a very fast turnaround from Royal Ascot, which was in around June 21st, 22nd, 20th. That's a quick turnaround with a trip across the ocean in there. The European horse that I like particularly is the French horse named Olandon. That one has already run the 10 furlong distance and run it well. It's got a second in a grade 1 race at Longchamp that went to 10 furlongs. So we know that horse can get the distance. So if you want to use a Euro, that's the one that I would use.
Yeah, and I think people are going to see that. Matt Olandon did run a very good race for trainer Pascal Barry over there in France, and I think she will get some money in here, and it certainly is in with a chance. I do like what the Americans put forward here, Chad Brown's group, and of course, like we've talked about a lot, Concrete Rose. So I think we might be able to beat the Euros in this race, but certainly on paper, Olandon looks the best. The O'Brien, yeah, I agree with you. The 4 O'Briens, 2 in the Derby, 2 in the Oaks. I don't think he brought over his A team or his number 1 string in either race. Coral Beach has had 16 starts already. You don't see a lot of 3-year-old fillies with 16 races. So she's used to being on the track and racing. But I think just wonderful. If you look at some of those races in there, she's got a little bit of more class than Coral Beach, I think. So I think she's the more likely of the Aidan O'Brien duo. I've heard the word is out. I haven't been able to watch any of her races yet, but the Japanese filly Jody is supposed to be a very good-looking filly who has a good turn of speed, unlike the Japanese colt, Mr. Master Fencer, who's running in the Belmont Derby, who has almost no speed. Jody's reported to have quite a bit of speed, so she might be out there with Newspaper Record. One more thing about Newspaper Record I wanted to say is that maybe they've been holding it back too much. It'll be interesting to see what her style is in this race, if the training has worked its magic and she's able to hold back a little bit. But I know she was pulled back during the early stages in each of those races, and she fought it a little bit. And I think that might have been her ultimate undoing in those races. Maybe if they just let her roll early, she'd be better off. But I have a feeling you're right. I have a feeling that that's not going to happen in this race either. Maybe she'll just fight it less this time. If I had to pick one horse, Matt, Concrete Rose makes a lot of sense. But I'm going to just go with Cambier Parc just because I think 1.25 miles might be better for her than Concrete Rose. I know Concrete Rose beat her pretty good up here at Churchill Downs, but sometimes I see the physicality and I fall in love with that Matt Shipman, and Cambier Parc has it all in looks, and I think 1.25 miles might be her game.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you on those picks. I just also want to throw in that the French horse Olandon will be getting the services of John Velasquez, one of New York's best riders. So that is certainly a plus.
And with the Americans, a little bit hodgepodge there with Chad Brown, the wrong filly winning the last time, and the undefeated filly only having to rate 2 races, and Concrete Rose beating both of them. But maybe not getting as much respect as she's due. Don't be surprised if Olandon is right up there vying for favoritism in the Belmont Oaks. All right, now one more big race that we need to talk about at Belmont Park on Saturday. It's earlier in the card. It's actually race 6, and it has a short field of 6. But it's a race I really have my eye on because I think Code of Honor is a horse who still could turn out to be a 3-year-old champion. That's right. I still think Code of Honor, despite only having one win this year, the Fountain of Youth, still think he's got a shot, if he's getting as good as I think he might be, to win races like the Travers Stakes and end up the 3-year-old champion. He returns first race back from the Kentucky Derby, Saturday's Dwyer, a flat mile, 1 turn at Belmont. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it's an interesting group of 6 horses in there. Another kind of hodgepodge group, and sure, Code of Honor is the likeliest of winners. No doubt is going to be a significant favorite in there. The winner of a race on the Derby Trail, and of course ended up with the 3rd place money in the Kentucky Derby. Was involved in the in the traffic problems that Maximum Security caused in there. But to me, there has to be a little question mark with Code of Honor. He has had a tendency to disappoint a number of times this year. Yes, he's had plenty of time off. Shug McGahee has been pointing for this as a return and developing Code of Honor. So likeliest of winners, but I don't know if I would be excited to bet on him at the price that he's going to be.
Yeah, fair enough, Matt. Although I will argue that Code of Honor really hasn't disappointed me too much, other than his first race of the year when a horse in the race, actually, Mijos, beat him. Mijos has been away since disappointing in the Holy Bull, which was the beginning of February. So it'll be interesting to see what Mijos, another horse who's got some potential to be good, is returning for Centennial Farms. Code of Honor, I don't think he's run poorly. He was 3rd in the Florida Derby when the pace of the race was not what he wanted at all. And then he got 2nd place money in the Kentucky Derby, Matt. He made a nice move up on the rail, and I certainly think he was impeded a little bit. His momentum changed a little bit when Maximum Security bounced back to the inside and made it real tight on the rail. And he never took off again after that, but he was still finished 3rd, put up for 2nd, 13-1. So I don't think that can be too much of a disappointing performance. Yeah, another horse trained by Shug McGahee with a very similar name, Honor Code. I liked a lot because I thought he was good at a variety of distances, Matt. And I think Code of Honor is a lot like that. I think Code of Honor will be just fine at this 1-turn mile, but I also think he's just fine at 10 furlongs as well. The Son of Noble Mission gets some speed in here. If you look at some of the hodgepodge, as you said it, which I agree with, he gets some speed. I know he's the favorite, but I really haven't been on the favorites today. So I'm going with the favorite. I think Code of Honor wins this Dwyer, rallies to win it nicely. He's filling out. He's training well for Shug McGahee. And I think he's as good a chance as any to win the Travers in a couple months. So Code of Honor, I'm excited to see in here. Of the speed horses, we need to mention Majid because he's won 4 in a row, Matt, and he wired the Easy Goer last time.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a horse from Zayat Stables, a son of Shackelford, and trained by Rudy Rodriguez. No doubt is going to give us an honest pace in there. Rowayton may also add to the pace in there. Shipped East at the time for Jerry Hollendorfer, and now in all of the Hollendorfer hubbub is officially being trained by Tom Chatlos, who has been one of Hollendorfer's top trainers, but now is the head trainer for this horse. Remember way back, Brian, that horse was 2nd in the Del Mar Futurity before 2 of those big name Baffert horses in there. We've also got Whiskey Echo in there, a Steve Asmussen horse coming up from Churchill Downs that most recently won an allowance race and has a couple of very brilliant workouts since that race. And we have got a horse for the team of Jason Service and Gary and Mary West named Final Jeopardy. His last two races don't look particularly good on paper, and you earlier mentioned Mijos.
Yeah, it's an interesting and eclectic group of 6. Majid kind of went all the way in the easy goer. I think he's going to have a harder time doing this, and primarily one turn with this amount of speed, because I think you're right. Roaten is going to be out there, but I also think Whiskey Echo, the Asmussen horse, who might be the most talented of all the speed horses in here, should be on or near the lead, and even Final Jeopardy is eligible to show some speed. So I think it sets up for the speed. Talking about Roaten, very interesting development with Hollendorfer now being asked not to come to New York as the trainer of his horses. Don Chotlos, who trained Singletary to a Breeders' Cup win years ago, has been with Hollendorfer for a long time. So like you said, Don Chotlos Jr. will be the named trainer of these horses now, including Roaten. Mijos and Code of Honor, though, I think are the beneficiaries of a pretty strong pace in here, even though it's a short field. Mijos, like we said, hasn't run in more than 5 months. Probably won't see his very best, but could be a talented horse. But I want to see Code of Honor win, Matt. I'm on the favorite this time. I want to see what Code of Honor can do the rest of the year, because I think he's a nice horse.
Yeah, Brian, and really can't argue with that sentiment. He's a horse that both of us have liked at various times this year, and definitely has a class advantage.
Yeah, he was my Breeders' Cup juvenile pick before he got scratched out of it. So we'll see what he does in the future. But it starts on Saturday in the Dwyer. All right, we gave you some picks, some previews here, some long shots thrown in. We got Catholic Boy making his second start of the year. We have Code of Honor returning for his first race since the Kentucky Derby. We got all these turf horses, both American and international. Chad Brown's everywhere in these big turf races at Belmont Park. Promises Fulfilled also runs in the card as well on Saturday. So it's truly can't miss horse racing at Belmont Park for the Stars and Stripes Festival Saturday at Belmont Park. Matt, can I? First of all, will you be there? Will you be at Belmont Park in person?
Unbelievably, Brian, I will not be at Belmont Park this weekend. My wife and I are going on a vacation together. We're going up by the New York, Canada border to take in some things that my wife enjoys doing. And then on the way back to New Jersey, I'm going to stop and add a racetrack that I've never been to my list and visit Fort Erie Racetrack on Sunday.
Will you say hello to my friends at Fort Erie for me, Matt?
I certainly will. I know you've been there.
It's a nice little track, just north of, just over the bridge, Peace Bridge. They're just north of Buffalo. So enjoy your little vacation and enjoy Fort Erie. And folks, enjoy your holiday weekend. We have July 4th coming up quickly, and then Stars and Stripes right after that at Belmont Park. I want to thank our sponsor, Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. Hey, folks, we really appreciate you watching every week. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit that little red button. Subscribe to our Horse Racing Nation YouTube channel now. Any other parting shots from you, sir?
Sure. I want to be sure to thank our great producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
English B in the Belmont Derby and Cordmaker in the Suburban. Try to get some long shots home this week. Enjoy the races, folks. We'll see you next week right here on HorseCenter.